Americans for Fair Taxation presents the weekly Chairman's Report, written by Steve Hayes, president of Americans for Fair Taxation, and recorded by Bob Paxton, a volunteer with the Florida Fair Tax Educational Association. And now, this week's Chairman's Report.
Hello, I'm Bob Paxton with the AFFT Chairman's Report for Friday, August 29th, 2025. Labor Day, celebrating the contribution of workers. Monday, September 1st, is Labor Day, a federal holiday. Now, why do we celebrate Labor Day? Abraham Lincoln was born in a log cabin with a dirt floor. In 1860, he said, "I'm not ashamed to confess that 25 years ago, I was a hired laborer mauling rails. I want every man to have a chance." In 1861, in his first address to Congress, Abraham Lincoln said, "Labor is prior to and independent of capital. Capital is only the fruit of labor, and it could never have existed if labor had not first existed. Labor is the superior of capital and deserves much the higher consideration." Now, even heirs to large fortunes who live off inherited wealth rely on the fact that their ancestors created that wealth by their labor. Now, to most people reading Lincoln's quotes, there would be no disagreement. Most of us believe this is a basic truth on the same level as the sun rises in the east. The first Labor Day parade was organized by the Central Labor Union in New York City on September 5, 1882. The event featured a public parade of various labor organizations, followed by a picnic and speeches by labor leaders. The parade was a demonstration of solidarity and strength among workers, and it set the precedent for future Labor Day celebrations. Now, Labor Day became an official federal holiday in Oregon in 1887, and by 1894, 30 states were celebrating it. In that same year, following the Pullman strike, which was a nationwide railroad strike, Congress passed a bill making Labor Day a federal holiday, which President Grover Cleveland signed into law on June 28, 1894. Traditionally, Labor Day is celebrated with parades, picnics, barbecues, and other public gatherings. These festivities often feature speeches by labor leaders and political figures emphasizing the importance of labor in our society. Over time, Labor Day has also come to mark the unofficial end of summer, with many people taking advantage of the long weekend for vacations and family get-togethers. In conclusion, unless we were born with a huge trust fund and don't need to labor, we're all laborers. We work to get the money we need to provide for ourselves and our families. Although withholding for Social Security started in 1935, income tax withholding started in 1943. According to Milton Friedman, who proposed it while working at the Treasury Department, withholding was supposed to be a temporary measure for the duration of the war. Now, if you really believe that we should recognize the importance of labor, how in the world can you justify a tax system that takes money out of the earnings of those of us who do labor? Now, the elites and their minions in D.C. are not working with us. They're working against us in our efforts to turn our labor into the things our families want and need. They're working feverishly to prop up a failed income payroll tax system that harms all working people, while at the same time giving them control over our lives and providing them with a lucrative income stream. The elites tell us that we're being irresponsible by not saving enough money, while they continue to discourage us from savings by taxing our savings and investment income. They tell us that if we need more money, simply work harder, while they continue to prop up a tax system that discourages hard work by rewarding that harder work with higher taxes. The elites tell us that they are working to help American businesses and to save American jobs, while they refuse to replace a tax system that favors imports and sends our jobs overseas. And finally, the elites tell us that federal deficits and federal debt are nothing to worry about, even though they lead to inflation that robs working people of their purchasing power. Isn't it time to free all of us from the tyranny of the federal income tax and the IRS? The income tax must go if we're going to make America great again. Now, if there is an income tax, any changes to it are only permanent until there's a new president whose party controls Congress. Now, a recent Quantas Insights poll showed that the majority of Republicans, Democrats, and Independents all are in favor of eliminating the income tax. Now, there is an alternative that eliminates the burden on individual citizens entirely and reduces the burden on businesses by over 90%. This alternative is the fair tax, a simple, progressive national retail sales tax on the retail purchase of new goods and services. In addition to removing the compliance burden on Americans, the fair tax also eliminates income taxes on Social Security permanently, eliminates income taxes on tips permanently, eliminates income taxes on overtime permanently. It also taxes imports and provides tax credits to U.S. exporters like all of our trading partners do. The fair tax eliminates the need for most tariffs, brings jobs back to the United States, eliminates federal taxes up to the poverty level, requires no tax returns for individuals, clearly shows the federal taxes hidden in the prices of the goods we purchase today. It also creates greater economic growth, brings in capital that allows productivity increases and higher wages, eliminates lobbyists and politicians selling tax benefits that harm the rest of us, and most of all, the fair tax eliminates the Internal Revenue Service. We need to move now and put a stake in the heart of the income tax and the IRS so they cannot be easily resurrected by a subsequent administration. Now, many of you have labored tirelessly for freedom from the federal income tax and the IRS. You deserve a great deal of credit for your efforts to educate the American people on the need to fund the American government in a way that's good for America and that returns freedom to the American people. It's imperative, though, that we don't replace the current income tax and the IRS with an alternative system that can still be manipulated by the ruling elite. We must let Congress and the President know that the best way to replace the income tax and the IRS is with the fair tax. Now, make no mistake about it. The fair tax is a grave threat to the ruling elites. It will strip them of their power and their ability to control us through the tax system. Their opposition to the fair tax will be fierce and unrelenting, and don't think for an instant they won't use half-truths, deception, and downright lies in their desperate attempt to hang on to their power. However, with the support of this president, we can finally eliminate the income tax and the IRS. Now, of course, the best course of action is not only to repeal the income tax and abolish the IRS, but to repeal the 16th Amendment as well so that no future administration can ever shackle the American people with an income tax again. We must come together and ensure that real tax reform, the fair tax, is not subverted by the elites in D.C. This will take the diligent efforts from all of us. We need your financial assistance, and we need your grassroots assistance. Now, if you have contacts that will allow us to get more information about the fair tax to President Trump, please let us know. Also, please email us at info@fairtax.org, and we'll give you some options on how you can best help us. At a minimum, please call your congressional representative and ask if he or she supports the fair tax. If so, thank him or her for their support and suggest they become a co-sponsor of H.R. 25 if they're not one already. If not, ask why not. Now, if your representative claims to be unfamiliar with the fair tax, offer to have someone come to their office and explain it to them. The solution: pass the fair tax. Now, why would D.C. pass the fair tax and give up an almost unlimited source of donations? Well, they won't, at least not voluntarily. The only way they will is if the rest of us demand it. Isn't it time to end this ludicrous tax collection system and the IRS along with it? Help bring about real tax reform and stop future IRS abuses. By contributing, or actually investing, $10.40 a month, you help provide a financial base to Americans for fair taxation. Now, if you can make larger contributions/investments, these will be used not for salaries, as we're all volunteers, but for the needed updates to our economic studies, which will be vital for all future years. Please go to fairtax.org to invest in AFFT and help us pass the fair tax. It's an investment in your and your family's future.
This has been the Weekly Chairman's Report, written by Steve Hayes, President of Americans for Fair Taxation. Check back every week for news and information about the fair tax, and learn why the fair tax should replace our antiquated federal income tax system. If you'd like to receive a copy of the Chairman's Report in your inbox every week, sign up at fairtax.org.